Hi, my name is Elijah and I work for BlueSky Digital. And today we'll be working with Alan Yaverbaum from Salesforce, the platform experts to unpack this further from us. So just as a starting note, and Alan, I'm going to dive into this with you shortly. Firstly, thanks for jumping on this webinar. A World Economic Forum report showed that a lot of major players, a lot of large businesses are now playing catch up in terms of the technology journey and moving away from legacy systems. Particularly in banks, we actually found that 70% of banks were still reviewing the legacy systems, while 43% were still using COBOL, coding language from the 50s. So from your perspective, how do you meet escalating demands and keeping up with changes in technology when you don't have the funds of a large scale replacement?
And this is a question that I personally tackle on a daily basis. And really, the high level question we try and answer is, how do we embrace technology? Anyone who's been in a leadership position at one time will have experienced having to let go of responsibility, understanding I can't do this all myself, I need to delegate. And one thing I tell everybody, and it's more true today than ever, is the pace of change will never be slower than it is right now. The pace of change is accelerating constantly. And as a business, you can't possibly hope to keep up with the changes in your customers' expectations and the changes of the types of technology that's needed to meet those expectations. So you've got to rely on technology partners. You've got to choose a camp to join and try and make the most of that. So you'll find companies like Salesforce have built out a stack of capabilities, all pre-integrated and connected and ready to work together to meet a customer's need. And so you've got to embrace that, and you've got to embrace that technology. So part of that thought process is really choosing partners that you trust and building a relationship and an ecosystem of capabilities.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I resonate with this personally because I have discussions with clients who are exactly in this scenario. And the way they look at it, they say, oh, Standard Bank is using them and Liberty in this. And no. You go with Salesforce because they will go on this journey with you. You're not going to end up in a scenario 2-3 years down the road when you're going to have to rip and replace it. No, actually, we need a bigger solution. Let solutions like Salesforce go down this road with you. Start small, but use the innovation. Really sweat the asset that Salesforce is, and you can build out a solution that can keep up with the rate of change in technology. Thanks for that answer, though. How do you meet the rapidly evolving and escalating demands and keep up with the rates of change in technology when your primary IT estate is aging and you don't have the capital for a large-scale replacement?
And this is precisely where the notion of multi-tenancy is so important. Salesforce has a core belief in democratization of technology, right? And so with the Salesforce platform as an example, everything you can do on Salesforce, you could do with one user or you could do it with 1 million users. It really doesn't matter. You're just adding users. The platform is flexible enough and scalable enough that it can handle starting small and growing. Whereas a traditional legacy on-premise world, you still have to buy the big server. You still have to license operating systems and software applications. And so the cost of one user or the cost of 100 users is very similar. Whereas with Salesforce, it's entirely scalable. One user costs one user, and so on. So that really helps companies transition to the cloud. And it really helps also understand what the time to value will be. So figuring out, okay, we want to move this legacy system to the cloud, and you're trying to figure out, well, do we lift and shift? Do we reimagine our business processes? Do we try and do something entirely different? Are we reimagining our customer here? Salesforce gives a very straightforward path to that and allows you to do it incrementally, right? Because there's very few companies in the world who can switch off a system tomorrow. It takes time, right? But you've got to be able to do it in stages.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree with that. On to the next question. From your perspective, do you think that cloud or the migration to the cloud and cloud solutions is the answer to all legacy IT problems?
I feel like, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I still would say it's not the answer to all. That the answer's starting to change now, and the power that we're seeing in the cloud is phenomenal, and potentially the cloud is the answer to all legacy systems now. There's still a question as to whether you go private cloud or hybrid cloud or public cloud,
Yes.
and you do have to make those decisions. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying about deciding what you do with your workloads. If you genuinely have to lift and shift a workload, that will be one decision. If you can re-platform into a new technology, then cloud is absolutely the answer. And if you're in the process of not just, I call lift and shift, I call that renovation. It's just adding new technology to the same old capabilities. But if you're not renovating, if you're actually in the process of evolving or transforming your business, then cloud is absolutely the answer. So I guess the answer is I 100% believe cloud is the answer to legacy. There's definitely a few ifs and buts in there as well.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. On to the next question. So how do cloud technology providers like a Salesforce help solve the issues of legacy solutions?
Well, there's a number of things they do there. The first thing that I think is great from Salesforce is we provide something called a customer transformation framework. So this is the framework of, first of all, how do we think about modernizing our business? How do we prioritize what's important? And quite often when you're talking to Salesforce, what's actually important to you is your customer's experience, right? That's where we are the world leaders by, a country mile. And so once we build out that customer transformation framework, then we have the process of capability mapping, right? So we can map what capabilities you need and what capabilities exist in Salesforce. And then we have technical processes and pre-made journeys to guide you into these Salesforce capabilities. But where there's gaps, we then have another kind of guided process and a way to think about building those capabilities in Salesforce if you need to do that. So I guess the first thing to do is there's a cultural and hearts and minds approach to replacing legacy for a lot of big companies. It's very hard to get people to release those AS400 and COBOL servers at times.
Oh, I know.
But I guess what we do is we look at is it possible through all those methods I said and what it would look like in the future. But then we say, how quickly can we do time to value on this, right? So fast time to value is so important, and Salesforce is so focused on helping people achieve that typically gives the business case to the change drivers in a company to go ahead and do this. And then the importance of doing this in a flexible and scalable way and at trust. So applying a layer of governance and security and compliance around everything you do. This customer transformation framework and the fast time to value and the business case and the reimagining of business processes are all part of the journey you go on with BlueSky and Salesforce. And it has to be done like that, because if you just choose one of those things, you're not going to achieve the goals you're looking to set out to achieve. You'll just solve a project.
100%. And I think that's a great segue into the next question I have. When you do it in I'll call it a siloed approach, or approach that really doesn't consider the best parts of Salesforce when moving over, what are the implications of not really going for it and doing it in the right way?
So there's a couple of things. First of all, you know, as we said at the start, being able to do something incrementally, starting small and going big, doesn't necessarily mean doing something in a siloed way. Initially, that small incremental change is in fact a silo, but the point is it's built on a platform that can be added to and expanded. And like I said at the very start, investing in that ecosystem of capabilities. So you may have a company that decides, look, we're just going to renovate or we're just going to transform how we find leads, how we capture new customers, and how we understand digital body language. A couple of siloed solutions, that's fine. But phase two, which will be a customer engagement strategy and a revenue collection strategy, are all built upon those same building blocks, that same platform. So the implications of not investing in a platform are recreating the same problems you have on premise today. Okay.
So, yeah.
And the implications of not making the most of your platform, you know, my mother has the latest iPhone and she uses it to send text messages. And I'm just like, you could be doing, you know, and it's the same concept. It's the same concept if you bought Salesforce and you only used it for opportunity forecasting.
100%. What are you doing? Seriously, it's like, what are you doing?
I think you mentioned the phrase "sweat the asset." Well, the same is true with Salesforce. Salesforce is a massive asset to most companies, and you don't just want to make most use of Salesforce components, but you also want to make use of Salesforce best practice and the wealth of experience that Salesforce kind of pours into its platform. Salesforce does that 3 massive releases a year, and those releases are crowdsourced by our best customers. They tell us what would be good, what is the right next thing to add into the Salesforce platform. So, you know, the implications of not using Salesforce to its fullest extent is that you're just not getting the value from the asset that you're paying for. And so we have this notion in Salesforce of trailblazers, right? People who really adopt to the Salesforce way of thinking and try to use technology to solve problems in their community and for their colleagues and for their customers. And so by becoming a trailblazer, making the most of the Salesforce platform, you avoid the negative implications of a transition to the cloud.
Absolutely, and again, that's another conversation I have at length with customers, because I'm saying, guys, if you're going to invest in this, do it properly, right? Any new application, any new bit of functionality, consider Salesforce. As long as a lot of a deep backend ERP type sort of functionality, that stays there. But if it's customer facing and it enhances the way your team can engage with customers, do it on Salesforce. There really should be no other solution. And I think that's why a lot of these large enterprise companies, especially down here in South Africa, have invested so heavily, because they've realized that they're running 30 different exercises with many different systems to roll out customer-facing solutions, whereas you can just do it in Salesforce. And if you commit to that process, it's amazing what you'll be able to do. So absolutely agree with you. Cool.
Sorry, just to kind of wrap up on everything what we said so far, we have something called the digital transformation principles in Salesforce. And we've mentioned all of them so far, but I have them kind of wrapped up in 4 easy to remember phrases. But the 4 principles of digital transformation with Salesforce are the ability to sense, respond, and anticipate, customer-centric business processes, one team aligned around the customer, and leanest possible technology stack. Now, we could unpack all of those for hours, but I wanted to give you those headlines. When you think about digital transformation, if you apply those 4 principles as your guiding light to your transformation, you are more likely to be successful. And it's a piece of content. I'm happy to have that conversation with any of your customers in the future if you want to get into it in more detail.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that thought leadership is much appreciated. So thanks for sharing. And the final question. So many companies, especially the larger companies, fear that any sort of migration from legacy to cloud at some point will put a halt, or there'll be some sort of interruption into that business activity. Mm-hmm. Is it true, and how is this mitigated?
Well, it could be true if you do it wrong. You know, it's mitigated by a proper application transition strategy. To be honest with you, you know, one of the things that happens a lot in Salesforce is people use Salesforce as a system of engagement. So you have that core business capability, you have that core application that's doing something, and seamlessly you can layer Salesforce on top of it to just surface that information as a portal, as a POS interface, as a mobile app, whatever. When you use Salesforce as the channel for engagement, you're essentially creating a staggered phasing out of that core business capability. Eventually, you can then take that core capability and move it to the cloud, buy another application, buy something from the Salesforce App Exchange, because we've got over 5,000 solutions on there, or maybe there's a Salesforce application that does that thing. And because you've now built that system of engagement, that layer of engagement around that core business capability, it's now interchangeable, right? The experience your customers and your employees have of that technology doesn't change. The way that that technology integrates with the rest of your business doesn't change. So it's in the world of IT hardware, it's like hot swap, you know?
Yes, 100%, that's it, yeah.
So avoiding downtime or interruption. Look, you know, there's always the cost of change in a business. We've got to train new users on the technology. We've got to potentially launch a new website or a new app. We've got to upgrade a thing. Interruptions are possible. You know, and anything can be solved. Any IT problem can be solved with a layer of abstraction. So if we can abstract how we engage the application from the application itself, the chances are that interruptions will be minimized, and that's how Salesforce can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we always talk about with our clients, as we build out a solution, first we co-create with the client, and we go through that process of iterating and testing the solution so that when it actually goes live and it goes out to people who have never touched it before, we've gone through iterating and making sure that we've catered for all the eventual issues that may pop up. So yeah, absolutely agree with you there.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Alan, look, thanks so much for sharing. Thank you so much for your time. I think that was greatly informative for me and the greater audience. So appreciate you taking this time to meet with us today. So that concludes our first webinar. Again, if you want to reach out, you want to have a discussion with Alan, myself, please reach out. We'll send out the details following this. But again, thanks for taking time to listen to this, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you.